In today's Fix It guide, we're going to take a look at how to replace the arms on a vintage Kenner Star Wars EV-9D9. You'll find that if you collect the vintage line of Star Wars toys, the EV-9D9, which is one of the harder to find figures, generally has a bit of a problem with the arms being broken. This is the one from my collection, and actually this guy's left arm is broken, and this arm is in pretty poor condition. You'll quite often find EV-9D9s like this guy here completely missing his arms. So what we're going to do today is use the Power of the Force 2 figure that came out sort of in the mid to late 90s, which the mould is pretty close to the vintage one. There are a few minor differences. If you look at the arms here, they're pretty close. The modern one actually has a slightly less detail than the old one, which is unusual. The rest of the figure has sort of fairly sort of minor variations all over, but the arms are going to be good enough to use and fit onto a vintage figure. So the first thing we need to do is take the more modern EV-9D9 and break him apart, and I want to get him into pieces so that the whole of the peg for the arm is still intact, and from that I should be able to use it to fit into this EV-9D9 here where they're broken off. And I'm also going to paint the arms to match the tone and colour of the vintage plastic. So first thing first, we need to break apart this guy. You can't use the boil and pop method on this, so I'm actually just going to do it the brutal way and crack it open with a pair of pliers, because I don't actually want the rest of the figure, and these figures are pretty common, so I'm not interested in salvaging it. So let's break him apart and see what we can get out of him. So here we have the more modern EV-9D9 in pieces. As you could see in my destruction part of the video, it was actually a lot harder than you would imagine to get into one of these figures. I ended up sawing it in half and then breaking the top of it open with a pair of pliers. But as I said, I'm not actually interested in the rest of this figure, so this will go in my sort of junk pile for future jobs. But here you can see the arms, and they are in perfect condition, as I didn't damage them at all, and you can see immediately that I'll just hold it like that, that they look pretty much like the originals when you hold them against the body. I'm going to have to do a little bit of modification to the sort of arm peg here. These modern figures seem to have a lot thicker sort of peg in place, and that's not going to fit in the current hole that's there, so I'm going to have to sort of cut these away and reshape them a little bit with a knife, and then they should be able to just sort of slot in place. They're obviously never going to be perfect, but they will look pretty good for display purposes, and that's really all I'm aiming for at the moment. So I'm going to go and cut these away with a scalpel until I end up with a peg that fits in the arm slot there. Okay, so after a fair bit of sort of cutting away carefully with a knife, you can see I've reshaped the left hand one. This right hand one is the original shape, and what you have to do is sort of do a little tapered peg to sort of accommodate the old style hole. So you can see it's actually quite a different shape compared to the original one. But now this arm here, if I take my vintage EV-9D9, sits quite happily in the arm socket. There's not going to be any easy way of attaching this, so it will be a case of possibly just gluing it in place, or I've made it fairly tight so it does stay in once you sit it in place. So this will be perfectly good for display, which is really all I'm going for. So you can see there the arm is in place, and you know, with a little bit of wiggling it comes out. It might even be just a small amount of blue tack or something like that will hold that in. So I need to go and cut this second arm into the same sort of shape, and that should fit on there, and then we'll go about painting it. So here we have the figure with the replacement arms. At the moment these are unpainted, but I just thought I'd show you how good they look. This guy on the left is obviously the original one, and the guy on the right is an original one with replacement arms. They are slightly sort of prouder than the original ones, not quite so sort of close to the body, but the actual effect is pretty convincing. So by the time I've painted these up, I think the end result should look pretty nice. So let's get the paint sorted, and we'll see how the final things look. So I've done a few paint tests to see how close I can get to the colour of the original EV-9D9, and I've got this is my sort of test sheet here, mixing a few different paints together, and this row here is the one where I've managed to get the closest colour. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So this is a combination of a couple of paints mixed together. Going to stand up. I'm using Humbrol Paints RC402, which is a sort of a rusty coloured brown, and then a tiny amount of this number 12, which is a metallic copper. The metallic copper on its own, I don't know if you can see here, gives quite a shiny finish with a few flecks of metallic paint in it, but it's way too metallic to work nicely. But a mixture of those two together creates a pretty nice sort of browny plastic colour, and having a few little bits of the copper flecks of paint in it gives quite a nice finish, which matches the plastic quite nicely. So I'm going to use a combination of that to repaint the arms. And the original arms are just a flat colour, so the whole of these arms need to be painted in that. So let's go ahead and do that. So here we have the final painted arms. I used a mixture of the rust colour and the copper to do an undercoat, and then I've done a very light wash of the copper over the top of it, just to take some of the sort of the dullness out of the paint. It gives it a little bit of a shine to it as well, and they actually look pretty nice, as you can see here. So here is the EV-9D9 that I was making the arms for. Let's put these in place. They actually fit in quite snugly. I've left the pegs fairly tight so they fit in and don't fall out. You can even pose him, which is pretty nice. And there you go, that's how he looks. The paint is not a perfect match, but it's actually, you know, to a sort of glance, it looks fairly good. I'll bring in a complete original EV-9D9 here, and you can see again that the arms are a pretty good match. There is obviously slight moulding differences, but again, if you're just going to put this on display, I don't think anyone would really notice the difference, as they do look fairly sort of accurate. So there you go, that's the best way I have found for making replacement arms for a vintage EV-9D9. You know, ideally you would obviously find some original arms, but as these sort of last 17 figures are hard to find anyway, finding loose arms for these guys is next to impossible. So your next best bet is to make some replacement ones using a more modern EV-9D9, and the results are pretty good. So I hope that's of help to you guys, and thanks for watching.